Well, hello there. My name is Terri Cole. I'm a licensed psychotherapist, a relationship expert, and the author of Boundary Boss. And in this little video, I'm going to share with you my Boundary Bill of Rights and some ideas, quick and simple things that you can do right now to have better boundaries in your relationships. So let's start with, why don't you know about boundaries? Well, most of us don't know about boundaries because nobody ever taught us. I want you to visualize boundaries as if they are a language, because they are. So you wouldn't expect to be fluent in Mandarin simply because you wished you were or you prayed hard enough, right? So you need to learn this language of boundaries. And in society, most of us did not learn this. They don't teach it at home. They don't teach it at school, not even if you get an advanced degree. They don't teach it there either. And in most societies and cultures and countries and families that we are raised in, especially if you were raised as a woman, we were not only not taught how to establish healthy boundaries, we were actually taught the opposite. Many of us were raised and praised for being self-abandoning codependents, right? With niceness as like the top virtue. If you were nice, if you were a good girl, everything was okay, which then leads us into our life where we end up saying yes when we want to say no. We end up overgiving, overfunctioning, auto-accommodating, and all of those things lead to dissatisfaction, frustration, and anger in our relationship. So let's start with our Boundary Boss Bill of Rights, and we will go from there. You have the right to say no or yes to others without feeling guilty. You have the right to make mistakes, to course correct, and to change your mind. And for many of us, this is very difficult. We feel like once we make a decision, we have to stick with it, which means that every decision you make carries the weight of a life sentence. So you have the right to course correct. You have the right to negotiate for your preferences, your desires, and your needs, right? You have a right. And in fact, you have to do that, because if you don't, who can? Right? Only you know what your preferences, your desires, or your needs are. But what I want to impart to you is that they matter, because you matter. You have a right to express and honor all of your feelings if you so choose, which also means that you're not obligated to confess all of your feelings, even if someone wants to know them, if you don't choose to share them. You have the right to voice your opinion even if others disagree. And I think that this one can be very difficult because we don't want to have conflict. We don't want to be rejected. And yet you have that right. You have a right to be treated with respect, consideration, and care. I'm going to say that again. You have the right to be treated with respect, consideration, and care. And that also starts with how you treat yourself. So treat yourself with respect, consideration, and care. And trust me, you are setting the bar for how every other person in your life treats you. They see how you treat yourself. And if you treat yourself like crap, you will inevitably attract others who think that that is the way that you should be treated. So remember, you are setting the bar for the way that others treat you. You have the right to determine who has the privilege of being in your amazing life. So think about that. Just because people might feel entitled to be in your amazing life, you really are the decider of who gets to be in your life. So imagine it like this. The VIP section of your life, you are the bouncer. You make the guest list. You put up the velvet rope. And if you don't do those things, anyone who feels entitled will just come on in and sit themselves down in the VIP section of your life, which means you are spending a lot of time with people you're really not choosing. It's kind of just by default. You have the right to communicate your boundaries, your limits, and your deal breakers, which means you need to know which boundaries to assert, right? What are your limits? What are the things that are a no-go for you? And no one else has a right to tell you that those things are right or wrong. That is for you to decide. You have the right to prioritize yourself and your self-care without feeling selfish. And I think for many of us, this is a major boundary struggle because we really were taught to be self-abandoning and to be overly generous, right? Think about other people. Be kind. I mean, think about all of the phrases. Oh, she's amazing. She'd give the shirt off her back to anybody. But why? That's a dysfunctional boundary, right? That is giving from a place of fear, usually, not necessarily a place of love. And if you give the shirt off your back to anyone, you will be cold. So please do not do that. You have a right to talk true, be seen, and live free, which happens to be the subtitle of my book. You really do have that right. And here's the thing. I want to empower you to really understand that it is within your power to do these things. So let's just take the example quickly of if you have difficulty saying no, if you say yes when you want to say no, or if you give people, the auto yes. Someone asks you and you immediately are like, okay, sounds good, great. Here's going to be my tip in this video about the auto yes. I want you to buy time. So sometimes if we've sort of been a people pleaser, if we've been looking for validation outside of ourselves, it can be very threatening to say no to people. We're so worried about what they think. Are they going to think I'm mean, or that I'm selfish, or that I'm full of myself? You can buy time, and it makes the transition from auto yes to authentic answer much easier. So how do you buy time? You will have 3 or 4 phrases, and I give you a whole bunch of scripts within the book to buy time. One is, I need to check with my roommate, my partner, my dog, whoever you need to check with before you give someone an answer. You can also say, hey, I'll let you know tomorrow because I have a 24-hour decision-making policy. Here's the thing. You are the boss of you. You can have a 24-hour decision-making policy if you say so. So we're going to be dialing into our own reality more than we are dialing into someone else's reality or what they want. You'll be shocked at how people will respect the boundaries when you start to draw them slowly but surely. And we can always do it with kindness. You can always do it gently if you so choose, and more firm if that is needed. But I want to make sure that if you took one thing away from this little video, that drawing boundaries, becoming a veritable boundary boss, does not mean you have to be mean. You can be kind, and in fact, it is the most loving thing that you can do in your relationships, because it means that you are talking true. Because ultimately, if you are saying yes when you want to say no to the people you love the most, you are not letting them know who you really are. And ultimately, how can anybody authentically love you if you don't let them authentically know you? And you are so worthy of being authentically known and loved and celebrated.